Today's BLASTEMM session number 7, and I would like to introduce a visitor, and I would like you all to welcome her. This is Dr. Sophia Chavez, and she is a doctor. She's a family doctor.
Yes.
Family doctor. She has her own business, and again, I would like all of us to welcome Dr. Chavez here for visiting us at BLASTEMM. So, welcome.
So today I'm here to talk to you a little bit about what I do. I'm a family physician. There's other types of doctors. Well, physician is a subcategory of doctor because there's a lot of different kinds of doctors, but not all of them are physicians. So that's a little bit about what I was going to talk about today. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves since it's a small enough group? I know some of you did introduce yourselves, but Zainab. Okay. Zaki.
Anissa.
Layla. Tafani. Sahir. Okay. Well, it's nice to meet all of you. You all look like you maybe range from grades 6 through 8. Maybe you're a little older. Is that right? Where are you in? 4th. Okay. All right. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So healthcare professionals, which doctors are a type of healthcare professionals, we help a group of people, society, maintain their quality of mental, physical, and emotional health. I mainly focus on the physical health, but they are all connected and related. Physicians are a particular type of healthcare professional. We have doctorate level degrees and a lot of training on how the body works and why diseases happen when the body doesn't work properly. So that's probably a difference in a lot of other types of healthcare professionals. You do have other healthcare professionals, nurses, nurse practitioners, physicians, assistants. But from my understanding, the difference between those is, as doctors, we spend a lot of time understanding how everything is put together, kind of behind the scenes, not just dealing with a problem and how to take care of somebody when they have a problem, but more how the body is put together and why it might go wrong. Next. So there's different types of medicine. I'm a primary care physician. Primary care, I would consider that like the base of the tree because it touches on a lot of different areas of medicine. And we would be more the first step that you would come to interacting with a doctor. So I'm a family physician. There's internal medicine doctors, there's pediatricians. They would all be considered primary care. So that's like doctors that know a little bit about pretty much everything. And then from there you have a lot of different branches of medicine where people will decide they are really interested in a certain part of the body or a certain disease, and they're going to study that a lot. So psychiatry, for instance, how many people know what psychiatrists are? Sahir?
They help people with mental problems.
People with mental.
Because my dad is a psychologist.
Okay, excellent. So his father is a psychologist, and psychologists and psychiatrists work together in the same field. The difference being psychiatrists are medical doctors. So they prescribe medicines and things like that. You have nephrologists, which are kidney doctors, endocrinologists, that's a doctor that specializes in the hormones of the body. That includes dealing with diabetes, people that have thyroid problems, and other types of problems. Radiologists, how many people anybody guess what they do?
Radiation.
Sometimes they deal with radiation, but most commonly they are dealing with things like x-rays. So you get an x-ray or ultrasound. They want to take a picture of what's going on inside your body without having to cut you open. Called a radiologist. Cardiologist, you know what cardio is?
Your heart.
Your heart. This guy's like taking all the points. I don't have any points. I should have brought some giveaways. Surgeons, and there's a lot of different types of surgeons. Obstetrics and gynecology. These are people that specialize in women and women's health, including delivering babies. So I would call primary care, as I said, the first line of defense. I'm a family physician. I'm trained in all areas of medicine. So all those different branches, family doctors rotate through all of those different things so that we have a basic understanding of all of those things, so that in general, most people's problems, you come and you see a family physician, they should be able to handle most things. But there are times when, yes.
So you do psychiatry too?
We do rotate through psychiatry, yes. So, you know, I know about, I treat basically some of all of those things, even some minor surgery. But if you need a major operation, I will refer you to someone else. And that's what primary care doctors do. We take care of people with like an immediate problem. We take care of people that have ongoing problems. We try to prevent people from having a problem. Most of the time when you go to the doctor, you don't have a problem. We're trying to keep you from having one. So that's prevention. And, you know, we treat all ages, men, women. Family doctors are trained in delivering babies and all of that too. So all of the different areas, I'm supposed to be able to go to a remote island somewhere and take care of most people's problems. Pediatricians are very similar, except they specialize in children. And internists, again, they're similar, but they specialize in adults. And they usually don't get any training in, you know, special training with women's health, like gynecology or delivering babies, things like that. Specialists, as I said, they decide they want to become an expert in like one particular area of medicine. They know a whole lot about that area. So they don't want to focus on a whole lot of different things like a family doctor. Some people, you know, that can be stressful to like have to have an understanding about a lot of different things, except you have to know where to go if you're not sure, where to look things up. And I saw all of you, well, not all of you, but a lot of you engage with your phones and technology. In 2013, as a doctor, I'm on a computer all day. If it's something I don't remember, because the information is expanding constantly, you can't remember all of it, but you have to know enough to know where to look to get all the other details when they come up. And most people, when you're dealing with a specialist, you will be referred or sent to that specialist by the primary. So let's say you have a problem. I'm doing my best, but I'm like, you know what, this is a little bit more complicated than I can really handle. I need you to see the cardiologist. Or we've been trying to get your diabetes under control. I think you're following a plan. And it's still not quite under control with most of what I know how to do. I'm going to send you to someone who specializes just in diabetes. That's what they do all day long. So generally, specialists, they spend a longer amount of time training, because then they have to, like a internal medicine, they might do that training, and then they have to go and do more training to really become an expert in that special type of thing. And when you do more training, usually, not all the time, but usually that means you get paid more. Next. So here's something I'm sure you're all interested in. I took this from a survey that was done by this group called Medscape, and they did a survey of physician compensation. That means their pay in 2011. And some of this has changed, but the average, this is on average. This isn't starting salaries, but this is on average, where even the worst paid doctors, which generally are pediatricians, on average across the country, they make about $156,000
A year?
a year. So that's on average. Starting out, I could tell you, I know for a fact, starting out depends on where you are. Like a children's hospital, they might not make $100,000 because they feel like you should just be happy to be in such a prestigious place. When I worked at the University of Penn, I made far less. I've never made $158,000 in my life. I haven't yet. But this is on average. I'm still a relatively young doctor. I know to you all I'm probably ancient, but as far as doctors go, I'm a relatively young doctor, and I would expect that, you know, at the average point of my career, they say that the average family doctor makes about $158,000. But you see, we're primary care, pediatrics, family medicine, internal medicine, we're down in the low pay range. You know, the high paid people they tend to be the people that spent more time in training, or they do surgeries or procedures. Anybody, if you cut on people, you tend to get paid more partly because that's how the system is set up, where you get paid more for doing stuff to people than for thinking, and that might change. But the highest paid, they say, are like radiologists, orthopedic doctors, heart doctors, although I would think heart surgeons probably get paid a lot more than just a person that thinks about your heart and gives you good advice. So you can see there's different areas, different lengths of time you have to study, and different pay for those things. And then you have this thing called board certification. That also affects how much you get paid. So I could go to medical school, do what you call like an internship or residency, depending on the state you're in, and that's it. And on average, if you do that, you don't go through any other like checks and stamps and certifications, your pay tends to be a lot less than if you go a little bit more and get board certified. So like you want to be a board certified heart doctor or cardiologist, or a board certified family physician, as opposed to a general practitioner can go and practice medicine without that. You need a license, but you don't need a board certification, but the pay difference tends to be a lot.
Can I ask you a question, Dr. Strange? So why would someone not become board certified?
Two reasons. One, well, a lot of reasons. One, you have to pay for it. Two, you have to finish a full residency program. Some people don't finish for whatever reason. Maybe they got kicked out. Maybe they had a family and they needed to go ahead and make more money right now. Some people have trouble passing tests. This is the reason why you would probably prefer to have a board certified doctor, because then you know they had to take a test, and not just take a test and leave it. They have to keep taking a test to prove that they know in 2013 what to do. Not just they knew in 1995 what to do. You know, that's the advantage to me. But then, like recently, I had to do something called maintenance of certification. They charge you a lot of money for everything, and it did make me kind of angry, and it made me feel like, I don't know if I want to do this because it's just a racket. They charge me all this money, but I want all my patients to be reassured, because this is a tough thing to realize, but you know, when you're black, especially being a woman, people don't automatically assume you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? They hope you know what you're doing. So then it's good to have an extra seal showing, no, I have taken all the tests, I've gotten all the credentials and qualifications, you know, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. They used to be on some TV show. So there's different areas where medical professionals, including physicians, work, hospitals. I have my own office. Some doctors work in schools, or nurses may work in schools, public health facilities. A big industrial plant, you need doctors on staff depending on the type of job, or maybe the company's so big they want to just have their own doctor there. People might get hurt. In wars, there's doctors there. Now the doctor will not be on the front line because it takes a lot of special training to be a doctor, so it doesn't make sense to put the doctor, you know, right in the firing line, because who's going to take care of everybody else when they get shot? In pharmaceutical companies, I actually recently left a job at a pharmaceutical company that I also did, in addition to having a doctor's office. So there's a lot of different things you can do. You can do things that aren't listed here. You can do research in laboratories, which I guess that would come under schools, like a university. You can do research, come up with new treatments. Nowadays, with technology, if you guys understood a little bit about health and knew how to write programs and things like that, you could get rich, because everything is based on technology. I use a computer system in my office. I'm looking up things on the computer. I really wish I could get some smart person like yourselves to write a program where all my patients, I knew how they would link together. So I see a lot of families, but I don't always realize they're families. They don't always have the same last name, where I could pull up on the screen and it would show me, okay, this is the mother and the father and the aunt and the neighbor. You know, that would be a really cool program, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And I kind of get a better sense about who people are when they come in. So that's another area. There's really no limit to the type of things you can do depending on what you're interested in. Next. then back to how much you get paid, because I know that's what people want to know. How much you get paid though? It depends on where you live. So here, unfortunately, here in the Pennsylvania area, it tends to be less than like if you were in the middle of the country. And really what I found, because I still stay like signed in where I get the different job postings. If you go somewhere nobody wants to live, you tend to get paid more to be there. So if you go and you agree to live on an Indian reservation and they need a doctor there very badly because they have no one to take care of the people, I can get paid, at least $100,000 more than what I can get paid here, and they will pay my student loans and things like that because they really need a doctor there. So where you live does matter. Now, Philly's a pretty cool place. Everybody wants to live in, Philly, DC, New York area. So the pay there might not actually be as much because it's an attractive place to live. But I don't even know what these states are. I know this is Illinois and Michigan, Wisconsin. No? Wait, which one of these is Wisconsin? The bottom one. I know. See, I did terrible in geography.
Why did you want to be a doctor?
Why did I want to be a doctor? I've always liked science. Do you like science? I could tell he likes something. Do you like science? I've always liked science. And I ended up, I was an engineer first. So when I went to college, I studied engineering. I was a chemical engineer. I actually worked at a company, I worked at a drug company, Johnson & Johnson, for a couple of years. And when I started working there, I'm like, this is nice and all, but I think I do want to go to medical school. See, I thought I never wanted to go back to school again because it's always, all of these price tags come with work. Nothing's easy. Nothing's free. Nobody's going to pay you a lot of money to sit around and do nothing, or, you didn't have to work to get it. Any option you have, whether that's never going to school, you can decide you're never going to college. That's fine. You're still going to have to work. Everything is hard. There's no easy option. Everything is hard. It's hard being poor. It's hard not going to school. It's hard working everything is hard. So you may as well do the thing that's like hard but has more benefits. Because everything is hard. So I just decided, you know what, I like it. I really do. Even when I worked at the drug company, I was actually getting paid a lot more money to do that. I just didn't like it. I couldn't make myself do a good job at that job because I just didn't like it. But what I do now, I really feel like it's natural to me. Like I could roll over in the bed in the middle of the night and do it in my sleep. Like it's something. And it's really, it's a blessing to find something like that because, like I said, everything is work. But you want to figure out what it is that you like to do too so that you enjoy doing it while you do it. That doesn't mean that anybody enjoys everything about their job, but you want to find something that you like to do, that somebody's willing to pay you to do, or you can figure out how to get people to pay out of their pocket to do, and that's what it is for me. Like something you would do in your spare time, even if nobody was paying you to do it. That's a good clue about whether you should do that. So some qualities to be a physician. These aren't really qualities, but just time that it takes. In general, you have to go through your regular schooling, then you go to college. They call that undergrad. That's generally 4 years. Then medical school is another 4 years, and then you have a residency training period, which for primary care would be on this lower end, like 3 years, and then depending on how fancy and specialized you want to be, it could be 10 years, maybe even more. Like if you like children and you wanted to be a pediatrician, okay, that might be 3 years. But let's say you didn't just want to like children, you want to be a pediatrician, but you want to be a pediatric surgeon. So now you've got to do a surgery residency. Then you've got to do extra training to learn how to especially do surgery on children. And let's say you really like children and you really like surgery on children, but you really actually like to do heart surgery on children. Okay, now that's more added on to that. So then, that's might be the 10 years. But let's say you figured out, well, I not only like heart surgery on children, I think I want to do heart surgery on children who aren't even born yet. So I want to do fetal surgery. So that might be more time on top of it. So depending on how far you want to go, the years get added on about what you're studying.
Fetal surgery.
You haven't? It's amazing. See, that's why people need to get board certification and recertified, because they didn't have that maybe 20 years ago, but now they do. Now they do. Actually, one of someone that I went to college with, he does fetal surgery. It's quite amazing. So like heart problems, they can, for some things, correct it before the baby's even born. Or like you've heard of spina bifida, where the spinal column isn't closed all the way, and children who are born that way could be devastating, where they might not be able to walk or have other problems, and sometimes they can actually go and close that up before the baby is born, where then you have like a whole different, you know, life course after that. So yeah, it depends on what you want to do. You know, I happen to choose the, you know, less years on the front end, you know, less pay, more general, and plus I don't like to not know about a certain thing. Like I wouldn't want to be a fetal surgeon and someone say, you know, my sugar, it's been high. I'm like, look, I don't know anything about sugar. I know about fetal surgery, and don't ask me about sugar, because I forgot about sugar about 10 years ago. So, you know, it depends on your personality type too. But you better believe that that fetal surgeon probably is getting paid a lot of money. Now that's a general thing, but now some schools offer different programs where it doesn't necessarily have to take that long. Now you can't be a C student, or probably not even a B student, and think you're going to do, you know, an accelerated program, but you can do it. They even have some programs where you could go and study in Cuba, where, you know, you go right from high school, you go study in Cuba, and for some of these things it's even free or very low cost, and, you know, they want you to go and practice in neighborhoods that need it. And they also have other things that they've started to come out with, like primary care accelerated programs, because they figured out there's not enough family doctors and pediatricians and general doctors, because we don't get paid that much, so nobody wants to do that. So they're figuring out that they need to be able to put more people in those jobs, because we take care of most of the people. So they're coming up with some other things. I actually looked online earlier today and found out they have more than I knew about programs where you can get your bachelor's degree and your MD in a shorter amount of time. So like Howard, I think they have a program where you can get both in 6 years. That's 2 years cut off. That's a big difference to pay, because, you know, it's not free. Somebody's got to pay, or you take a loan, or you got a scholarship for 8 years or 6 years. That's a big difference. That's a big difference. Drexel has a similar program. Some of them might be 7 years. Some of them might not actually be shorter. It's just more guaranteed you would get in. It might still be 8 years, 4 and 4. But if you do good in their program, you have a better chance of getting in, because it's very competitive. Like any of you who think you like medicine, it really, no matter what you want to do, that's what I would tell you. Always do your best. Not Sahir, do Zaina's best, or Zaki do Layla's best. No, you do your best, because that's what they're looking for, people who can perform. Because believe me, I tell you, because I did it, it's not easy. It's not easy. You have to be dedicated. Slacker, you want to be a slacker, then you do the hard job for slackers, which is get paid less money and work 3 jobs or whatever. Or you can do the hard job for overachievers, and you working hard studying and all of that, but when you get finished, people are paying you a lot of money to do what you do, because not everybody's willing to do the work. It's a whole lot more of you that are able to do it than are willing to do the work. So how many are willing to do the work? All right, that's what I want to see, because it's not, there are people that just aren't that smart. That's true, but most people, that's not their problem. Most people, it's not a problem whether you're smart enough or not smart enough. It's whether you're willing to do the work, whether you're willing to not go to the party because you have to study, or whether you're willing to, you know, not buy a car because you got a student loan or something like that. It's choices. Sacrifice, exactly. You gotta sacrifice. And guess what? You're gonna be made to sacrifice something regardless. This is what I'm figuring out after all this time. You have to sacrifice something regardless. Everything's hard. There's no easy choice. Like it's hard living in a neighborhood with a lot of crime. It's hard going out fighting crime. It's hard regardless. Okay. I think it might have been, that was it. So you guys asked some questions while we went through. You have another one?
How many years of college did you do?
I did 4 years of college. So some people, and I studied engineering. Some people, when they become engineers, they are in school for 5 years because engineering is a particular type of field where a lot of times you want to kind of get practice as you're going through. So you might have, one is more courses. Again, it's hard. It's hard. But it's very easy to find a job if you're an engineer. But then also you might want to do little work experiences, things like that. So I did 4 years of college, but some people might do more. Some, like most people who go to Drexel for engineering do 5 years of college, right?
Yeah, on co-op, we have a couple of years where we spend half the time working.
Right. Right. Because you're kind of practicing. Yes.
What's like? How long does it take? How long in college does it take for a neurologist?
For
A neuro.
to be a neurologist, a specialist in the brain. Well, if I'm correct, because they're all, you have to get your MD first. So, you know, that's 4 and 4 in general. 4 years of college, bachelor's degree, 4 years of medical school, medical degree. Unless you do one of those crunch programs, maybe you can get it down to 7, maybe 6 if you're lucky. But then it's the training after that. See, it's still not quite done because you have to do something called a residency. And for neurology, I believe that's 5 years to do neurology.
Dr. Shabazz, you gave 4 years for engineering, another 4 you did for medical.
Yes.
Where did you go for medical?
I went to the University of Penn for medical. I went to the University of Penn for both.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about residency? How
Now,
many?
why do you think he said wow? Why do you think he said wow?
It seems like a lot less lessons.
Well, he already knew how many years. He wanted to know where.
You got accepted twice.
Right, because see, that's the thing. It's always a qualification process for everything. So he had that reaction because they don't let everybody in to Penn.
Right. One of the top schools in the world.
Right, they don't let everybody in. Now, you think they would let me in because I like, you know, kicking rocks? No, they don't let rock kickers in. They want to see hard workers, you know. And that's the reaction that people will have. If you work hard on the front end and you qualify yourself, then you can, you know, and it's not, you can get a good education a lot of places. But he's a lot more sure I know what I'm doing than he might have been if I said something else, right? So that's how everything is. You're always trying to be your best and do the best because it helps to say something about yourself before you open your mouth. Right, so you want to be a specialist in the brain? See, the brain is amazing. That's one of the things they are really starting to learn, that the brain is like the most, all those little gadgets and computers, they can't in any way compare to how amazing your brain is. I mean, you can do anything with your brain. Anything with your brain. So I think that would be a great thing to study. And you know what I didn't talk about? They have these programs called MD, PhD programs where most of the time they will pay you to go to medical school. Now it takes longer. So instead of 4 years, it might take 7 years because you're going to get a medical doctorate and a PhD. So you might be a medical doctor and you have a PhD in neuroscience, and then you're going to be a neurologist. You're going to have a lab, you're going to see patients, you're going to invent a new treatment, you might come up with a computer that works as good as a real brain. This man's going to be rich. But you can do all of these different things. It's really how far your interest takes you and how far you're willing to work in a particular area. So you can definitely do that.
So how long is it to be like an obstetrician or a midwife?
To be an obstetrician now or a midwife, now that's a whole different thing. So I can give you some information about being an obstetrician. because they're also medical doctors. Midwives deliver babies, but they're not medical doctors. So obstetricians, they go 4 years of undergrad, 4 years in medical school. That's like the cut point. Everybody with an MD did pretty much the same thing up to that point, and then you do training, a residency training. So obstetricians do like 4 years, and then they might do more because you might want to be an obstetrician that specializes in really complicated pregnancies. You want to take care of people who are pregnant and have diabetes, or you want to take care of people who are pregnant and have, you know, and they're 60 years old. They're not even supposed to be pregnant. So everything, you could always take it to the next level. You know what I mean? I always joke, my dad, he was that type of person where he would want me to do the most specialized thing. So when I was finishing college, I was finishing in chemical engineering, and I taken some extra classes in biotechnology, so I had a concentration in biotechnology. He wanted everything to sound, you know, extra special and specialized. I think he would be annoyed that I'm a family doctor. Like, you're just a general doctor, that's it. You're just a family doctor, not a neuroscientist, neurologist, neuropsychiatrist.
I'm not the same way.
And you know, I'm glad that he pushed me, but then at a certain point you have to have balance where you kind of get a sense of what your interests are too. So if you're only interested in a particular thing, or you kind of like some other stuff, but I mean, like I have a friend, she's really interested in neuroscience. She said if neuroscience was a man, she would marry it. You know, that's really interested in something, right? So you might have something like that that you're really into, and I say go for it. You know, I like a little bit of everything. I don't want to commit to a certain thing.
Dr. Smith, I have a question. So does a family doctor, do they do pediatrics also?
Yes.
Okay.
We train in all areas of medicine. I should be able to go to the reservation and pretty much take care of most things. Some family doctors can do certain minor surgeries. I got stuck in the OR one time, so that was all. I was like, listen, I don't want to go in there again. We still had to, you know, train and rotate through and all of that. But yeah, we take care of children, adults. Like they say, the phrase in family medicine is womb to tomb. So we can deliver babies, we can take care of infants, as you get older, as you know, in a nursing home, and then, you know, we sign off when you're out of here.
Do you have your master's and bachelor's degree?
No, I don't have a master's degree. You actually don't need a master's degree in order to get a doctorate degree. Not everybody realizes that. I used to think that it was like a step thing. You get bachelor's, then master's, then doctorate or PhD. You don't need a master's degree in order to get a doctorate degree. A doctorate degree is the highest, they say, you can go. But really, there's never any such thing as you can never go any further. But that's the last degree they give you. Doctorate is the last type of degree. So you can get a medical doctorate. You can then get another type of doctorate, but there's no degree that's higher than a doctorate. You can get a, like I said, MD and a PhD. You can get a doctorate in education. You can get a doctorate in nursing.
So what subjects do you have to really major in?
So the basic things you have to be really good at, you have to study biology, chemistry, organic chemistry. Engineers need to know like high level physics and calculus. You have to know a little bit of that to be a doctor, but you don't necessarily have to do the hardest type of calculus or the hardest type of physics in order to be a medical doctor, actually. But math, chemistry, physics, biology, that's basics. And I think too, depending on what type of doctor, you don't even have to be a people person. You don't even have to be nice. You do have to be able to communicate with people because you're interacting with different people all the time. But you know, family doctors, I think we tend to be nice. You know, we tend to be nice, talkative types. But let's say you really don't like talking to people. You might be a pathologist. So a pathologist, they like take a sample, send it to the lab. I don't even need to see a patient ever again in my life. You send me their sample, I look under the microscope, I'll tell you what's wrong with them. So there are some doctors like that. There's some doctors that have huge, you know who the hugest egos are that I ever worked with? Surgeons. They can be terrible. Some of them are nice, but you know, I worked at one time. The person that stuck me, he was a cardiothoracic surgeon. He would, I mean, cussing people out in the OR, throwing needles around. What are you doing? You know I don't need this. Why do you know, they'll go off, throw things, you know. They act crazy. They act really, really crazy sometimes. And that's, I guess, what they consider the privilege of, you know, having studied so hard is, you know, everybody knows they're the cat's meow, and everybody waits on them. It was funny. I belong to the Weaver's Way Co-op, and I did a rotation at Chestnut Hill Hospital when I was in medical school. So I realized this one woman that was behind me in line, she's a surgeon. She didn't remember me, but I remember her. She was going crazy because she like had an extra 30 seconds of wait because there was some issue about, you know, the type of milk I was buying. So I sent my son, and she was like, oh, can I just get this, you know? And I looked at her and I remembered her, and I just ignored her because I knew she couldn't help it. She couldn't help it, but in her mind it's like, I can't wait. You know, everything revolves around me, and I need it, what I want right now. And I'm not going to wait at all. So, surgeons do a lot of good, too. You know, if my appendix gets inflamed and it needs to come out, with some competent hands. Or like Ben Carson, you know Ben Carson? You know who that is? Somebody tell him who Ben Carson is. No one knows? Gifted Hands? Yeah, Gifted Hands.
Yes. Did he do the first heart transplant?
No, he's a neurosurgeon. So a neurologist is one kind of brain doctor. He's a neurosurgeon. So he does surgery on the brain. So like if you get a brain tumor or certain types of brain illnesses, he does surgery on that. Which, you know, that's pretty hard to do. That's pretty tricky. That's pretty high up there. So you should, you know, he's not the only black neurosurgeon, but he's probably the most famous black neurosurgeon. But everybody was mad at him lately. He said something that everybody was mad at him about. I forget what it is. Something political. He's a Republican or something. Any other questions? But, yeah, whatever. If you ever have any questions, most people who are really into what they do, they love to talk about it, you know. And if you want to like learn about something, or it's something like if you want to be a neurologist or a neuroscientist, if you find someone who is really into it, they'd be glad to help you. In fact, one of my friends who, she didn't go straight through like from high school to college. She's just going back to college now. You know, now that she's an adult, she has children. But this is the one that says she would marry neuroscience if it was a man. Well, she went down to the science carnival at the Parkway. Did you hear about that? You missing it. You already missed it.
That's where I came.
That's where you came from.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that. She was down there and she met someone who was a neuroscientist, and she was talking to them, and they like, well, what's your name? You know, I'd be glad to help you. And if she calls that person, he would be glad to help her because he's really into what he's doing. Most people, if they're really excited about what they're doing and you share that excitement, they'll be happy to help you. They'll be happy to help you.
Is it easier to work in groups or like by yourself?
Sometimes it could be either. Sometimes it's harder to work in a group. Sometimes it's easier to work in a group. It depends on what it is. And some of it depends on your personality, but really depends on what it is. Like that's one of the bad things about me as a doctor, like having my own practice. I know I can count on myself. So my inclination is to try to like figure it all out myself and do it all myself because I can't be 100% sure somebody else is going to do it. But at a certain point, you're not really doing a good job if you try to do that because it doesn't make sense. Like, would you pay somebody $150,000 a year to answer the phone? Right. So it doesn't make any sense for me to answer the phone because, you know, you really have to start to think like that. Like it doesn't make sense to do certain things, even though you might want to do it. And some people are better at figuring that out and dividing themselves than, like I tend to be the kind of person, oh, I'll just go ahead and do it. But I had this one friend, my Puerto Rican friend, Dr. Ramos, she didn't play that. She, you know, in the office with her, everybody hated her guts because she would make it very clear, I'm the medical, you're the assistant, I don't dip pee, that's your job. And, you know, that sounds very rude, but it did make sense because if the office is only getting paid for what the doctor is doing and you don't need a doctor to do certain things, it didn't make any sense for her to do it. Now, I would never say that. I would just go ahead and do it myself. But that was dumb. And in business, you have to think about, you know, business, what makes sense, the dollars and cents of it, because everything is a business. Nobody is paying you to do anything where they can't get the money from somewhere. So what you do has to have a value.
Ask a quick question, Doctor. At their age, what were you thinking? Were you thinking about what you wanted to be? I know, like you started as an engineer, but what things did you like to do, you think?
I liked reading books about how things work.
Okay.
I know we had like this encyclopedia set. One of them was like a children's encyclopedia that went through about different things, how it worked. But that was what I liked, how it worked type stuff. So even that show, this How It Works show, I like to watch that show too. So I was always interested in how things work. And the body is just another type of machine. It is, I think, the most perfect machine, but it's another type of machine. And I like to know how it works. And when it's not working, why it's not working, and how to fix it. You like stuff like that?
She likes it.
Do you like stuff like that? Yeah. Do you like taking things apart and putting it back together? Yeah. So I always like reading nature or watching nature shows. Even now, like you watch a show about animals, and that's like a psychiatry study right there. Because I mean, they got a whole thing going. Animal Planet, yeah, they had the hyenas. They were dealing with the buffalo, I think. Now the a hyena can't get a buffalo because the buffalo is so much bigger. But they know how to create confusion. So what they do, they start creating a ruckus. And then you get one buffalo by himself. Now 10 hyenas can jump one buffalo. When the hyenas didn't have a chance against the pack of buffaloes. But when they got them to stampede because they cause confusion, then they get the weakest one. Now they can all eat. So that's like psychology in the Animal Planet. So I like things like that.
What's your business called?
My business is called Fountain Medical Associates. So that's my doctor business. Doctor's office.
What colleges do you recommend for doctors?
Honestly, I think there's a lot of good schools. What you have to weigh is the reputation of the school, what your grades are, can you get into the school, how much is it going to cost you? Because that's very relevant. Because guess what? It costs, the tuition at the time I was at Penn, for undergrad, the cost was $25,000 a year. That was the cost. Now, interestingly, another school might have been $17,000 a year, but that wasn't the best fit for me because even though my parents didn't have any money, because the $17,000 a year school maybe wanted my family to pay $5,000 a year when I could go to Penn for free.
Wow.
So, so really, it's a lot of things that go into it. I think that if you just try to get into the best schools you can, try to mix it up. Like I know when I was in high school, they would say, pick a couple reach schools. That's schools that are like really highly regarded schools that are very hard to get into. A couple schools that you probably could get into, but you know, they're like reputable schools. And then they said a couple schools that you know for sure they would be sending a limo to come and pick you up. Like they really would love for you to come there. Because all of that plays in. You might end up going to the school that really you could have gotten into a fancier school, but the school that's sending you a limo and wants to see you for free, that might be the best thing for you. You know what I mean? As long as you can make sure that you're going to get a quality education, which guess what? You can get a quality education a lot of places. Plus, sometimes you can negotiate. So the limo school, you know you don't want to go to that school. You want to go to Harvard. But Harvard might want you to pay more. Now you might say to Harvard, Penn State, they're offering me a full scholarship, and it's always been my dream to go to Harvard. I mean, who doesn't want to go to Harvard? But I just can't see paying X, Y, and Z dollars. That's how I got a scholarship to medical school, because when I got accepted to Penn, but they weren't really giving good financial aid. And then I got a half scholarship from another school. So I called Penn and said, I really want to go to Penn, but it's going to cost me half as much to go to, Emory. I don't know if I can turn that down. I mean, it's not as good as Penn, but heck, it's not bad. So they said, okay, we'll give you half too. So then, it was really a blessing. I was on a waiting list for another school that was just as good as Penn on a ranking, but I was on a waiting list. Well, I came off of the waiting list, and they had a full scholarship there, coming off the waiting list. So then I called, but I said, you know what? It's been nice talking to you. I'm definitely going to this school because they're offering me a full scholarship. They said, oh, wait, we have that too. There you go. So always never just take anything at face value, but you have to have choices. You can't say, oh, I want to go here, but it costs too much. They said, okay, well, what are your other choices? None. Okay. Well, call me when you make a decision. So it's always good to mix it up. But the best position to be in is when you have done your absolute best and your hot stuff. Schools are tripping over themselves to find good talent. If you're a good student, someone will want you. And it's nice to have other things, play sports, whatever. But I mean, if you play sports and you're a C student, trust me, Harvard is not going to be calling you. You know what I mean? Because they're not that pressed about C students. Because guess what? There's people with straight A's that know how to play basketball too. So that's what you have to figure out. It's so competitive. I think it's more competitive now than it was when I was coming through. Because now, like, they used to have, minority this, minority that. Guess what? The minorities they're not from Philly. They're from other countries and things like that, where their parents might have already been to college or have money or whatever, and guess what? They can fill the slot with them. That's what I see happening a lot, where regular inner city people, it's almost like you have less and less of a chance, because you're not just competing with other people like you. You're competing with people all over the world. Wow. All over the world. So that's the main thing I can tell you. Always do your best. Do your absolute best.
Is there any more questions? No? Okay, we would like to thank Dr. Sophia Shabazz.
Thank you for having me and your attention.
Coming and talking to us. And
pretty quickly, right? So, look online, Google it. You can learn anything on the internet.
So would you recommend to start studying now?
I recommend you study what's in front of you right now and do your best at that. Your goal should be A's, no less than B's. C, if you have some type of difficulty learning problem, get help for it. Get it documented on your record that you need extra time for tests or whatever. But if there's nothing wrong with your ability to learn, you're perfectly intelligent, then your parents shouldn't see anything less than B's. And really mostly A's, right?
yes, indeed. Yes. You see, you can tell my daughter that.
Yeah, there's no excuse for lazy. That's something you can say. My house burned down. We were living in a hut, and whatever. That might be a good excuse. Yeah. I just didn't feel like it. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody cares about you. You're just lazy. That's just the honest truth. Because there's 10 people with straight A's whose house burned down, and they were living in a hut, and they were getting beat every day and all of that, and they still managed to get straight A's. There's 10 people like that in line behind you, so you don't stand a chance.
Yeah. Do you teach a class?
Oh, what kind of class?
Like a class for what you do?
Sure, I just gave one, I guess. But yeah, I guess if you figured out what kind of class, what you're interested in, what part of what I do that you would like to learn more. And one thing that might be interesting that I would like to do, I've done it before, is to teach you how to do something simple like take blood pressure, where then you can have health fairs. People love it. They see the young people lined up, they know how to take blood pressure. They got the stethoscopes and the white coats. You don't need a medical degree to take blood pressure. Anyone can learn. That's something that I can teach. And then you could, if you have a health fair, line the children up. That'll draw people. Like, wow, they got the children over there doing it. Blood pressure.
Will you be available in the future to speak to these young people who?
Sure.
Okay, so that's good. So Dr. Shabazz will be you all come in and ask you.
Email me. Sometimes people come and shadow in the office. That could be, a little. I like for people that are a little bit farther along. At least high school, preferably college.
Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But keep in mind, not everybody, patients, they didn't necessarily come to have you in the room with the people. They talk about private stuff. That's another thing, a characteristic when you're a doctor. You have to keep people's confidence, their privacy. So I see a lot of people out and about that I know socially, but I'm their doctor. I can't bring up about the infection they had, or even their sugars are through the roof. I can talk about it in general, like our people have high blood pressure, or we have, problems with sugar or whatever, but I can't say, yeah, she came to see me last week and her sugar was 555 and she doesn't take her medicine, and I could go to jail for that. You know what I mean? I lose my license, So, all that to say, I like for people to be a little, mature if they want to come and shadow in my office, things like that. But I'm excited about what I do. I would love if all of you were doctors. All of you could be doctors, I believe that. I believe all of you could be doctors if that's what you're into. There's easier ways to make money. My sister, she's into making money. She has a master's in business. She's a lawyer. She's not into nasty stuff. You have to stand the sight of blood. My husband doesn't like anything nasty. My son cut his head and he couldn't look. He would not make a good doctor. Unfortunately, some things that has nothing to do with your level of intelligence. Some things you just have to have a personality for. Yeah. If you can stand the sight of nasty stuff and the smell of it. Things to think about, It's different looking on TV. You don't smell anything.